Looking back on August 18th of 2022, it was a pretty bright and sunny midday, um, warm and dry, low humidity. Um, on that day, about 12:30 p.m., noon lunchtime, uh, I was notified by our operations center of a leak in one of our ton tank chlorine gas cylinders. A ton tank is approximately 3 foot by 8 foot compressed gas cylinder filled with approximately 2,000 pounds of liquefied chlorine gas. And a leak had occurred at the valve stem. Um, and if unchecked, a leak of such as that would completely empty that amount of chlorine within 15 minutes. Um, Thankfully, there was few employees on site due to it being lunchtime, and we have several automatic systems in place to prevent exposures to chlorine gas because of the quantity of these cylinders that we had in place. We had about 80 on site. As soon as the sensors that were on site detected over 15 ppm in the vicinity of the tanks, 15 ppm of chlorine gas, a high pressure pollution abatement system evacuated the gas from the low level regions of the room out through a wet scrubber system of sodium hypochlorite to ensure the neutralization of the chlorine gas, and as well as initiated an evacuation alarm through our operations dispatch system. That was when I received the call. The operations system automatically sounds an alarm for evacuation to the appropriate muster point, and the various buildings that we have on site will follow their emergency action plans or EAPs to evacuate and get to the safe to upwind and elevated positions for chlorine exposure or for chlorine releases. The wardens will then make sure that anybody that is checked in to work that day is accounted for, and everybody will await further notice. And because this system is not exactly subtle, the media typically responds even to tests of the system fairly quickly. And that was the case with this as well. And our corporate communications director responded to them fairly quickly as soon as they arrived at the gate, and directed them to a safe location where they could stay for and shelter in place until the incident was over, and we could provide them with a press conference and details of what had happened. Local hazmat response arrived on site and coordinated off a exclusion zone of 1/2 mile out from the facility as a precautionary measure. Even though we have the pass system in place with monitoring that's at the end of the system to monitor any releases into the environment, we out of an abundance of caution, we made sure to include a shelter in place order with the hazmat response team of all residents within a 1/2 mile of the facility. Anybody with any staff on site were evacuated within 500 yards of the building, and anybody to go enter into that area, you'd have to be suited up in full PPE of the appropriate respiratory protection and bodily protection. Thankfully, it didn't get to that level of exposure due to our prior planning on the incident. In addition to the PASS system, we had in place the emergency kit B for these ton tanks. It's a system to, if there's ever a leak on the valves or freeze plugs, to rapidly be able to seal the tank and prevent any further release. So in a sense, the PASS system is a stopgap, because eventually the reaction product for the wet scrubber system is going to run out, and the real solution is to seal the tank. So after the workers in the area were able to don PPE, escape respirators, and proper respirators after escaping, and enter back into the area, they were able to reseal the tank appropriately within just minutes of the initial alarm, and the release was minimal. After analyzing the data, we did find that at the end of the PASS system, there was an amount released through the PASS system after it had exhausted the sodium hypochlorite reaction product. And during the press conference with the media, we announced that we wanted them to release this to a statement to the community at large, that the amount that was released was minimal, and there was no danger to the community. We had conducted modeling using the Cameo suite of programs, Marplot and Aloha, using the concentrations that were provided, and there was at no point would there be anything that would reach dangerous levels, or even exposure limit levels over an 8-hour period. But out of an abundance of caution, we also would be going out into the community to examine low-lying areas of the community, ditches and storm areas. If there were any basements or other areas of houses that were of concern, any person could contact us directly, and we would come out and do an assessment on the house within the exclusion zone that we had set up, and ensure that there was no sequestered chlorine gas inside of the house. Our team, leaning on the support of the corporate communications and our local emergency services, was really important for this. But on top of that, the support of the tight-knit community was important in their understanding that this release is not a common incident. It's the first one we've ever had, and because of our planning, and it could have been much worse, but it wasn't, and we were able to contain the release because we had all the proper procedures and equipment in place to handle a chemical exposure incident of this capacity. The community was very understanding of that. We had some amount of upset family members, but it was mostly at the shelter in place order, not so much of the incident. Um, the press conference went well with there was no negative media backlash. Generally, there seemed to be a positive outcome to it. The leadership skills that I would say came into play here were the decision making to plan ahead, and instead of just being reactionary and seeing that we've never had an incident, so therefore we shouldn't have an incident. Seeing that there was a large quantity, 80 cylinders, 160,000 pounds of chlorine gas on site, it could be a large problem at some point if there was a leak, and developing a process that's in place, and there are other processes in place for larger leaks as well, multiple tanks, but having one in place for a single tank leak such as this was very important for this situation. But expressing empathy for the community was well received. Having the integrity to be fully transparent to the community was important, in that we didn't try to hide anything, even though we could prove that there was no exposure to the community through the data coming out of the pass system and the various monitors that were set up inside of the building and along the fence line. We freely offered that information to anybody that wanted it, put it out there on our website. But as far as takeaways from this incident can go, there is learning to be made in that there was an amount that bypassed the reaction product of the pass system. So reevaluating the capacities of that would be important. Even though it wasn't a large amount released, it still overwhelmed the system. And but the early automatic warning system saved a lot of lives, and training to use the emergency kit B and what procedures needed to happen to evacuate according to the different EAPs of the buildings, donning PPE quickly and efficiently to escape, and then re-don different PPE to get in and apply the emergency kit B was very important. And then also, and you cannot stress it enough, is the coordination and disclosure to the greater community is always maintaining trust. Whenever there's a large amount of chemicals within a community, you have to maintain trust with them, or else you're going to have a bad time.